Hello, and welcome. Find a comfortable position, settle in, and allow your mind to quiet. Let all the noise from your day begin to fade, like ripples on a still pond. Tonight, we're going to travel back in time. There won't be any grand castles, no heroic battles, no tales of chivalrous knights or powerful kings. No, our destination is far more humble and infinitely more common. We're going to explore the slow, detailed, and demanding story of a single day in medieval times through the eyes of someone who actually lived it. Imagine, just for a moment, that you're not in your comfortable bed. Imagine you awaken, not to a gentle alarm or the morning light through a clean window, but to a profound, biting cold. You're lying on a straw mattress, on a hard-packed dirt floor. The air you breathe is thick with the scent of old wood smoke, damp earth, and something else, something alive. You open your eyes in the dim, gray light, and you can just make out the shape of the family cow, shifting its weight only a few feet from you. This isn't a nightmare. This is your reality. Our journey begins now, as we explore what it truly meant to survive, from one sunrise to the next, in the life of a medieval peasant. The first thing you feel is always the cold. It's not just in the air. It feels like it has seeped into the ground itself, up through the thin straw of your bed, and settled deep in your bones. The single-room hovel you call home is a fragile fortress against the elements. Its walls are a lattice of woven wooden strips, a technique called wattle, smeared with a mix of mud, straw, and animal dung, known as daub. They do a decent job of keeping out the worst of the wind and rain, but the cold is a more stubborn intruder. It finds its way through countless invisible cracks and settles deep inside the small space. The roof above you is a thick layer of thatch, which has grown blackened on the inside from years of smoke from the central fire. It gives you shelter, but it's also a home to spiders, insects, and maybe a mouse or two. The floor beneath you is just the earth, packed down by the constant movement of feet, both human and animal. Straw is scattered across it to soak up some of the damp and grime, but it's a losing battle. You're not alone on your straw pallet. You're huddled with your family, your spouse, a few small children, all of you bundled in coarse woolen cloths, sharing body heat as your main defense against the chill. And just beyond the invisible line that separates your sleeping area from the rest of the room are your most valuable possessions, your animals. The family cow, a few chickens, maybe even a pig, all share this room with you, especially in the cold months. Their presence is a matter of pure survival. Their body heat adds a little extra warmth to the hovel, and keeping them inside protects them from thieves and predators. The sounds of the morning are quiet and familiar. There's no sudden jolt into wakefulness, just a slow, creeping consciousness. The first sign of a new day might be the distant crowing of a neighbor's rooster, a lonely call in the pre-dawn stillness. Inside, the sounds are closer, more intimate. You hear the soft rustle of straw as a child shifts in their sleep, the low, rumbling sigh of the cow as it stirs. The air is filled with a mix of smells you're so used to, you barely notice. There's the sharp, acrid scent of cold ashes from last night's fire, the earthy, damp smell of the floor, and woven through it all, the warm, animal smell of your livestock, the sweet scent of hay, and the faint, unmistakable tang of manure. This is the smell of home. This is the smell of survival. Through a small, uncovered opening in the wall, or maybe through the gaps around the poorly fitted wooden door, the first hint of dawn appears. It's not a bright, cheerful light, but a pale, gray wash that slowly pushes back the deepest shadows. It lights up the specks of dust and smoke that hang in the air, tracing the rough texture of the walls. The day hasn't truly begun, but the world is stirring, and so must you. Survival isn't a goal. It's a constant state of being, and it begins now, in the cold, dim light of a new day. Before any other thought can fully form, before you even think of food or the work waiting in the fields, one task comes before all others: the fire. In the center of the room sits the hearth, a simple circle of stones on the dirt floor. There's no chimney, no flue to draw the smoke away. It just rises, filling the upper reaches of the hovel and finding its own way out through a small hole in the thatched roof or through the straw itself. The air is always, to some degree, smoky. Last night, before you gave in to sleep, the fire was carefully banked. The biggest logs were set to smolder slowly, their glowing embers covered with a thick blanket of ash. This wasn't just for safety. It was to preserve that precious heat, to keep the heart of the home alive through the long, cold night. Now, your first job is to bring it back to life. You move slowly, your limbs stiff from the cold. Kneeling by the hearth, you carefully rake away the top layer of gray ash. It's a delicate process. With your bare hands or a small piece of wood, you search for the faint, deep red glow of a living ember. Finding one is a small victory, a quiet reassurance. This is the seed of the day's warmth and the day's food. You gather these precious coals together, creating a small, hot core. Then you begin to feed it. You don't start with logs. That would just smother the tiny flame. You start with the most delicate kindling you have, a handful of dry twigs, carefully collected and stored, or a twist of dried moss. Often, it's a few dried patties of animal dung, which burn surprisingly well and are a vital source of fuel. You lean in close, your face near the hearth, and you blow. Not a hard gust, but a long, steady, gentle breath. You're coaxing the fire, not commanding it. You watch as the embers brighten with each breath, from a dull red to a vibrant, pulsing orange. A tiny wisp of smoke curls up, then another. And then, with a soft, satisfying crackle, a small, fragile flame flickers into existence. You keep nurturing it, adding slightly larger twigs and small sticks, patiently building its strength. The smoky air gets thicker for a moment, making your eyes water before the draft starts to pull it up toward the roof. Letting the fire go out completely would be a small disaster. It would mean a trip to a neighbor's hovel, carrying a pot to humbly ask to borrow a few embers. If no neighbor had a fire to share, it would mean the long, frustrating task of striking flint against steel, trying to catch a spark on a piece of char cloth. It could take a long time you just don't have. But this morning, you've succeeded. The flame grows stronger, more confident. The small sticks catch, and soon you can add a proper log. A wave of warmth, the first of the day, begins to push back the cold. It's a deeply comforting feeling. The fire is the center of your world. It will cook your food, be your only light in the darkness, and offer a place for your family to gather. Its crackle is the home's heartbeat, and you've brought it back to life for one more day. With the fire slowly gaining strength, the next task is to get dressed. This isn't a matter of choice or fashion, but of simple, practical need. Your wardrobe is small, functional, and built to last. There's no closet or chest of drawers. Your clothes are likely folded in a small wooden trunk or just kept in a pile on a bench. The main material for your clothing is wool. It's coarse, heavy, and often scratchy, but it's also incredibly warm, even when it gets damp. The other material is linen, made from the flax plant. It's lighter than wool, but not as warm. Everything you wear is homespun, a thread spun by the women of the family during the long, dark evenings, and then woven into cloth on a simple loom. For a man, the day's outfit begins with breeches, loose trousers tied at the waist, and often crisscrossed with garters down to the ankle to keep them snug. Over this, you pull on a simple, long-sleeved tunic, probably made of wool. A leather belt is cinched at the waist, and it's more of a tool belt than anything. From it, you might hang a small knife or a pouch for a whetstone. For a woman, the basic garment is a long dress or kirtle that reaches to the ankles, made of wool or linen. Over this, she'll wear an apron to protect her dress from the grime of daily chores. Undergarments, as we think of them, are a luxury you've likely never known. For most, the tunic or dress is worn right against the skin. The colors of your clothes are the colors of the earth. The bright dyes the nobility wear are incredibly expensive. Your clothes are the natural, undyed shades of wool and flax, browns, grays, and creams. Maybe a simple dye from local plants, welled for a pale yellow or wove for a muted blue, is used for a special occasion, but for everyday wear, you blend in with the landscape. Footwear is practical. Inside the hovel, you're likely barefoot on the dirt and straw. When you go outside, you might have simple leather shoes, more like slippers or moccasins. Another common choice, especially in the mud, is wooden clogs. They're clumsy and heavy, but they're durable and keep your feet out of the worst of the muck. Finally, as you prepare to face the morning, you add an outer layer, a thick woolen cloak or a hood as a barrier against the wind. These clothes aren't about expressing who you are. They are your armor against the world. They're heavy, they're restrictive, and they carry the faint, ever-present scent of wood smoke, sweat, and hard work. Getting dressed is a quick, unthinking ritual. You pull on the same familiar layers you wore yesterday. Your focus is already turning to the world outside and the endless list of tasks that wait for you. The fire is lit and you're clothed. Now, the sounds from your animal roommates become more insistent. The cow lets out a low, impatient moo. The chickens, sensing the light and activity, begin to cluck and scratch at the ground. Your livestock aren't pets. They are your walking, breathing lifeline, and their needs must be met before your own. First, you let the chickens out. You unlatch the simple wooden door, and it swings open with a familiar creak. A blast of cold, fresh morning air rushes in, clearing the smoky room for a moment. The chickens scurry out into the small, muddy yard, starting their day-long hunt for worms and seeds. If you have a pig, it too is shooed outside to forage. If your family is lucky enough to own a cow, a true symbol of peasant wealth, the morning milking is next. This is usually a woman's task. She takes a wooden bucket and a small stool and settles beside the animal. The cow is used to this routine. The sounds are rhythmic and soothing, the soft squirt of milk hitting the side of the bucket, the cow's heavy breathing, the occasional swish of its tail. The milk is precious. Most of it is destined to be turned into cheese and butter, providing vital fats and proteins that will last. Drinking it fresh is a simple pleasure, but one that can't be taken for granted. The process is messy. The ground outside the door is a churned-up mix of mud and manure. The squelch of your feet in the mire is a constant morning sound. After milking, the cow is led out to pasture. This might be a small plot of land near the hovel, or more likely, the common grazing land shared by the village, where a child is often tasked with watching over all the village animals for the day. These morning chores are noisy and earthy, filled with the clucking of hens, the snuffling of pigs, and the lowing of the cow. But there's no sense of drudgery. This is the rhythm of your life. Every egg you collect, every bucket of milk, is a real, tangible piece of your family's security. You're not just feeding animals. You're tending to your future, making sure there will be food on the table in the days to come. The work is demanding, but it's also deeply meaningful. With the animals tended to, your own hunger starts to make itself known. The idea of a large, leisurely breakfast is a fantasy. The morning meal is a simple, functional affair, designed to give you the energy for a long day of hard physical labor. You gather around the now roaring fire, the one place of real warmth in the hovel. The centerpiece of the meal, and almost every meal, is bread. But this isn't the light, fluffy bread we know today. Peasant bread is a different thing entirely. It's made from whatever grains are available and affordable, rarely expensive wheat. Your loaf is more likely a dense, heavy mix of rye and barley, maybe with oats or even ground peas, and beans mixed in to stretch the flour. The loaf is dark, with a thick, hard crust, often blackened from being baked on a hot stone placed right in the fire's embers. You take the small knife from your belt and saw off a thick slice. It's coarse and chewy, and the taste is hearty, often with a slightly sour tang. It's not delicious, but it is filling. This bread is the foundation of your diet. Alongside the bread, there might be a bit of pottage left over from last night's supper. Pottage is a kind of perpetual stew, a thick porridge of vegetables and grains that simmers for hours over the hearth. It might have cabbage, onions, leeks, and peas from your small garden plot. New ingredients are simply added to the pot as the old is eaten. It's a warm, savory, and nourishing dish. To wash it all down, you don't drink water. Water from the local stream or well is often untrustworthy and can make you sick. The common drink for everyone, men, women, and even children, is ale. But this isn't the strong ale of a tavern. It's small ale, a weak, low-alcohol brew made by reusing the grains from a stronger batch. It's safer than water because the brewing process kills most of the harmful bacteria. It provides hydration and a few extra calories, and its slightly sweet flavor is a familiar comfort. The meal is eaten quickly, without much talk. Time is a resource as precious as food. Everyone takes their share, a hunk of bread, a scoop of pottage, a mug of ale, and eats with a focus born of necessity. This isn't a moment for family bonding. It's for fueling the body. The cold, hard work of the day is waiting, and this simple meal is the only thing standing between you and the exhaustion to come. On many days, the morning routine includes one of the most fundamental and difficult tasks of peasant life: making the bread that keeps you alive. This process is a small version of your entire existence. It's slow, physically demanding, and governed by forces you can't control. It begins with the grain. You don't just buy flour. You have a small portion of the harvest, rye, barley, or oats, that your family is allowed to keep after the Lord has taken his large share. This grain has to be ground into flour. By law, you're required to take it to the Lord's mill. For this service, the miller takes a portion of your flour as payment. It's a system that makes sure the Lord profits from every step of your work. Sometimes, to avoid this tax, families use a secret illegal hand quern at home. A quern is a simple device of two heavy circular stones. You pour grain into a hole in the top stone and turn it against the bottom one with a wooden handle. It's incredibly slow, back-breaking work. Hours of grinding might only produce enough flour for a few days. The rhythmic, grating sound of stone on stone and the constant ache in your shoulders and back are the price of a little extra food for your family. Once you have your flour, coarse, gray, and flecked with bran, you make the dough. In a large wooden or earthenware bowl, you mix the flour with water from the village well, a pinch of precious salt, and your leavening. This isn't a packet of yeast. It's likely a piece of sourdough starter, a living culture carefully kept from the last batch, or maybe some dregs of yeast from ale brewing. Then comes the kneading. On a floured board, you work the sticky, heavy dough with your hands. You push, fold, and turn, again and again. It's a physical, repetitive motion, a slow dance of muscle and grain. The dough isn't light or elastic. It's dense and stubborn. When the dough is finally ready, you leave it to rise. You shape it into a rough, round loaf, place it in a warm spot near the hearth, and cover it with a cloth. Then you wait. The rising is slow, especially in the cold hovel. There's no precise timing. You judge it by eye and feel. The final stage is baking, and this is the biggest challenge. You don't own an oven. Ovens are large, expensive structures, often owned by the Lord, who, again, charges a fee to use them. Your oven is the hearth itself. You might place the loaf on a flat, clean stone that has been heating in the fire. Or you might simply clear a space in the embers. Place the dough right in the hot ashes and cover it with a pot turned upside down. There's no temperature control, no timer. Baking is an art of instinct. You judge when it's done by the smell, the color of the crust, and by tapping the bottom to hear if it sounds hollow. More often than not, the result is imperfect. The crust is thick and hard, often charred in places while the inside might be a little doughy. But when you pull it from the ashes and brush it clean, it is a thing of profound value. This single loaf represents hours of work, a small victory against hunger. Its hearty, smoky aroma fills the hovel, a scent of hard-won survival that is, in its own way, more satisfying than any perfume. As the sun climbs higher, it's time to leave the shelter of the hovel and begin the real work of the day. You step out into the village, a small cluster of huts like your own, lining a single muddy track. The air is filled with the sounds of a community at work, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the shouts of children herding geese, the lowing of oxen being yoked to a plow. Your destination is the fields that surround the village. The land belongs to the lord of the manor. It's organized into large, open fields, and your family has several long, narrow strips to farm for yourselves. But before you can work your own land, you owe labor to the Lord. For several days a week, you have to work his land, a domain, for free. This is the core of your obligation as a serf, a peasant tied to the land. The work is dictated by the season. Spring means plowing and planting. Late summer is the frantic race of the harvest. But on an ordinary day in between, the work is a long list of mundane, repetitive, and exhausting chores. Today, the task might be weeding. You walk to the Lord's wheat field and spend the next several hours bent over, pulling out the thistles and nettles that threaten the precious crop. The work is backbreaking. You're bent at the waist, your eyes scanning the ground, your hands pulling and digging. The sun beats down on your back, or a cold wind whips across the open field. There's no shelter. Another day, you might be repairing the wooden fences that separate the fields, making sure livestock don't wander in and eat the crops. This means carrying heavy timber, digging post holes, and lashing rails together. Or maybe you're clearing stones from a new field, a seemingly endless job of prying rocks from the earth and hauling them away. Your tools are simple, heavy, and crude. They're made of wood with iron tips, a heavy plow pulled by a team of slow oxen, a sickle for reaping, a scythe for mowing hay. There are no machines to ease the burden. All of it is powered by your own muscles. You don't measure time by a clock. Your clock is the sun. You work from the time it's high enough to see until it begins to dip toward the horizon. The rhythm of the day is slow, steady, and grueling. It's a rhythm of repetition. Bend, pull, stand. Lift, carry, drop. Your mind might drift, but your body continues its familiar, aching dance with the earth. This is the reality for most people, a life of unceasing work for the land and for the Lord who owns it. The first light of dawn is still just a promise, but the cold has already worked its way deep into your bones. You're awake, not because you want to be, but because the chill seeping through the cracks in the walls has made sleep impossible. Your bed, a pile of straw that smells faintly of damp earth and mice, offers little comfort. It's just another day in the medieval world, and the morning tasks are already waiting. The sounds of the world outside are muffled and distant. Maybe a cock crows somewhere in the village, its call thin and sharp in the cold air. But inside your one-room hut, the only sound is your own breathing and the faint rustling of the animals in their corner, their warmth a small, meager blessing against the damp. Leaving the straw pallet isn't a sudden movement. It's a slow negotiation with the cold and the stiffness that's settled into your limbs overnight. You don't spring from bed. You peel yourself away from it. You move a hand, the fingers curled and aching, and push aside the rough wool blanket that's your only shield against the night's chill. The air that touches your skin is a physical thing, a presence in the room that feels almost wet with cold. It prickles at your arm, and you instinctively pull it back, seeking the fleeting warmth of the straw beneath you. You're wearing what you wore yesterday, and the day before that. A single coarse linen tunic that has absorbed the sweat of your work, the smoke from the fire, and the general dampness of your world. It's stiff and smells of wood smoke and stale sleep. There are no night clothes, no soft comforts to change into. Your clothes are your life, a second skin that is rarely, if ever, taken off. You sit up, and the movement sends a familiar, dull ache up your spine from yesterday's labor. Your knees crackle. You place your bare feet on the floor. It isn't wood, but hard-packed earth, cold and unyielding, like stepping onto a smooth, cold stone. The chill is immediate, a constant reminder of the world you live in. You can feel the fine grit of the dirt under your soles as you sit for a long moment, letting your eyes adjust to the darkness. There are no windows with glass, just a single small opening in the wall, covered by a wooden shutter that's closed tight against the night. The darkness inside is almost absolute. The only light is a faint, deep red glow from the center of the room, where the embers of last night's fire are sleeping under a blanket of ash. This little pulsating heart of warmth is the center of your world, and your first task. The very first thought upon waking, before hunger, before the animals, before the fields, is that the fire must live. You stand, and your shadow, cast by the faint embers, leaps and dances against the mud and stick walls. The air is thick with the smell of old smoke, unwashed bodies, and the livestock sharing this single space. It's a smell so familiar you don't even notice it anymore. You take a step, then another, your movements slow and deliberate in the gloom. You know the geography of this small hut by heart, the rough-hewn table, the three-legged stools, the pottery hanging from pegs. You navigate not by sight, but by memory, a silent choreography performed every single morning. Your family is still asleep, huddled shapes under their own blankets, their soft breathing a rhythmic counterpoint to the silence. No words are needed. The morning routine is a silent ballet of necessity, where everyone knows their role. You reach for the flint and steel, their cold metallic surfaces a familiar weight in your hand. The day hasn't truly begun until there is light, and you're the one to bring it. Kneeling on the cold, earthen floor before the hearth is a familiar ritual. The hearth isn't some grand stone fireplace, but a simple, shallow pit in the center of the room, maybe ringed with a few stones. It's the nucleus of the home, the source of all warmth and all cooked food. Letting it die completely would be a foolish waste of effort. Relighting a fire from nothing is a slow and uncertain task. Your job now isn't one of creation, but of resurrection. You carefully scrape away the top layer of gray ash with a piece of wood. It's a delicate process. Go too fast, and you might smother the very embers you're trying to save. A small cloud of fine ash rises, and you turn your head to avoid breathing it in. And then you see them, a small cluster of glowing coals. Their light, a deep, pulsing orange, like dormant eyes opening in the dark. You have a small bundle of tinder, saved from the night before, maybe dried moss or frayed rope fibers, gathered and stored with care. You lean in close to the hearth, your face just inches from the faint warmth. You place the tinder carefully onto the embers, arranging the finest fibers so they touch the hottest points. Then you lower your head and blow. Not a hard gust, but a long, slow, steady stream of air. Your breath is a tool. The first puff seems to do nothing. The embers glow a little brighter, but that's all. You take another breath and blow again, your eyes fixed on the tinder. A tiny wisp of smoke curls upwards. A good sign. You keep blowing, a steady, patient rhythm, and a wisp of smoke becomes a plume. The embers beneath glow hotter, turning from orange to a bright yellow. And then it happens. A single tiny flame flickers to life, dancing precariously. it wavers, threatening to go out. You hold your breath, watch it, then give it another gentle puff of air. It steadies and grows. The flame catches the rest of the tinder, and suddenly you have a small, crackling fire. The light pushes back the oppressive darkness. Shadows retreat to the corners. The faces of your sleeping family are briefly illuminated in the flickering light. Now you have to feed the new flame. You add small, dry twigs one by one, carefully building a little structure over the fire. You don't just dump them on. That would smother it. You build it a home. The twigs catch, their crackling growing louder, more confident. The warmth begins to radiate outwards, a tangible wave pushing back the chill. Finally, you add a larger piece of wood, laying it carefully across the kindling. It will burn slowly and steadily, providing heat and the coal bed needed for cooking. The soot-blackened cauldron hanging from a hook above swings gently over the growing fire, a silent promise of the morning's pottage. You stay kneeling for a moment, feeling the warmth begin to seep into your clothes and skin. The fire is alive. The day has officially begun. It's a small, mundane victory, but an essential one. Now it's time to face the world outside. You pull a rough woolen cloak over your tunic, a heavy, scratchy thing that's better at blocking wind than providing real warmth. Lifting the heavy wooden bar from the door, you pull it open. The hinges groan, a familiar sound in the morning quiet. The air that greets you is a shock, colder than inside, sharper, with the damp, earthy smell of morning. The sky isn't light yet, but a pale gray is blooming in the east, silhouetting the dark shapes of the other huts. The ground is hard and uneven, maybe slick with frost. Your destination is the village well, the heart of the community, the source of water for drinking, cooking, and washing. At this hour, it's deserted. You make your way along the rutted track of compressed earth that winds between the houses. You arrive at the well, a low stone wall encircling a deep, dark hole. A wooden frame stands over it, supporting a winch and a long, thick rope with a heavy wooden bucket at its end. Everything is damp with dew that feels like ice. You grab the handle of the winch and begin to turn it, the mechanism creaking loudly in the stillness. The bucket disappears into the darkness of the well shaft. After a long moment, you hear it, a distant, hollow splash. Now for the real work. You brace your feet and start hauling the water up, hand over hand. As the bucket fills and begins its long journey upward, the weight becomes immense. The wet, rough rope digs into your palms. Your muscles strain, tight and brittle in the cold morning air. It's a slow, arduous rhythm. Heave and pull, heave and pull. You pause for a rest, your breath coming in white puffs. You look around at the sleeping village, the outlines of the thatched roofs becoming clearer in the growing light. In every one of these huts, someone is either just beginning these same tasks or will be soon. You resume pulling. Slowly, agonizingly, the bucket emerges from the darkness, brimming with impossibly cold water. Some of it sloshes over the side as you maneuver it over the stone lip of the well. This water is a treasure far safer than the water from the nearby river, which is often polluted. Still, a contaminated well could sicken an entire village, so there's always a small prayer that it remains clean. But one bucket isn't enough. You need water for the animals, for the meal, for washing. You pour this bucket into the two smaller ones you brought with you, and then you lower the well bucket back into the darkness. The whole process begins again. The creak, the splash, the long, back-straining pull. The second time is harder. Your muscles protest, and your hands are raw. Finally, you have to carry them back. You lift the two buckets, one in each hand, the weight staggering. You walk slowly, carefully, to avoid stumbling and spilling the precious contents. Your arms feel like they're being pulled from their sockets. By the time you reach your hut, you're breathing in ragged gasps. You set the buckets down just inside the door. The fire is burning brightly now, filling the hut with a warm orange glow. The morning chores are far from over, but for a moment you can rest. With the water secure, your attention shifts to the other beings sharing your hut. In a screened-off section, or a small lean-to outside, are the family's animals. A few chickens, maybe a pig, or a goat. They aren't pets. They're assets, and their health is vital. The animals stir as you approach, their soft grunts and clucks in anticipation of their morning feed. The first task is the most unpleasant, but essential. The pen must be cleaned. The floor is a thick, damp layer of soiled straw. You grab a wooden pitchfork and drive the tines into the packed-down floor. It takes effort to break it loose. You lift the first load. It's heavy, and the pungent, earthy smell is strong. You carry it outside to the dung heap. This isn't just waste. It's future fertilizer for the garden plot or the strips of land in the common fields. Nothing is truly wasted. You go back and repeat the process. Scoop, lift, carry, dump. It's rhythmic, monotonous labor. Your back, already aching from drawing water, complains with every lift. You work your way across the pen, scraping it clean down to the bare earth. The sounds of the village are growing around you now. A baby crying in a nearby hut, the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer. When the last of the soiled straw is gone, you bring in fresh bedding. Armfuls of clean, dry straw, its sweet smell a pleasant contrast to the muck you just removed. You spread it out, creating a thick, clean carpet for the animals. Now you feed them. A portion of grain or scraps for the chickens. A trough of slop for the pig. The sounds of them eating are contented and reassuring. You fill a heavy clay bowl with some of the fresh water you hauled, and they drink greedily. You watch them for a moment, checking for any signs of sickness or injury. A lame chicken or a pig that's off its feed could be a disaster. Today, they seem fine. You latch the gate, the task complete. Your hands are dirty, your clothes smell of the work, and your body aches. But there is a quiet satisfaction in it. The animals, a crucial part of your family's survival, are cared for. It's a cycle that dictates your morning, every morning. The sun is higher now, and a pale, watery light filters through the open doorway. The fire has taken the edge off the chill, and the air is thick with the smell of simmering pottage. This brief time, after the outdoor chores, but before the walk to the fields, is for maintenance. Your tools are your livelihood. A broken hoe or a dull axe means lost time, a smaller harvest, and a hungrier winter. They can't be easily replaced. Mending isn't a choice, it's a constant necessity. You gather the tools that need attention. A hand sickle with a wobbly handle, a hoe with a chipped and dulled edge. You sit on a low stool near the fire. You pick up the sickle first. You find the spot where the blade enters the wood and gently tap a tiny wooden wedge into the gap with a stone. It's a temporary fix, but it will have to do. Then you take a new piece of leather cord, soaked in water to make it pliable, and wrap it tightly around the handle, securing the blade. Your fingers are clumsy with cold, but sure with practice. Next, the hoe. You take your whetstone, one of your most important possessions, spit on it, and begin to sharpen the hoe's edge. It makes a rhythmic, grating sound. Scrape, scrape, a slow, methodical sound that fills the hut. You're not trying to create a razor-sharp edge, just a durable one. You feel the edge with your thumb. It's better. You keep scraping, your arm moving back and forth in a practiced motion. You find a rough patch on the wooden shaft and smooth it down with a piece of broken pottery. Nothing is ever perfect. Everything is in a constant state of decay, and your morning is a battle against it. You're not a specialized smith or carpenter. Your skills are born of necessity. You know just enough to keep your world from falling apart. As you work, your family begins to stir, woken by the light and the sounds. The pottage on the fire is ready. Soon it will be time for the morning meal, a simple bowl of warm porridge maybe with a piece of hard, dark bread. You set the mended tools aside. They aren't good as new, but they'll work. This quiet time of repair is over. It's a brief pause between the harsh chores of the early morning and the long, grueling labor of the fields that will consume the rest of your day. You've battled the cold, the darkness, the filth, and the decay. For now, you've won. You've survived another medieval morning. Now it's time to eat. The tools are mended. The fire crackles low. Outside, the light is growing stronger, but within these walls, time still holds its breath. You've done what you can to hold decay at bay for now. A bowl of hot pottage waits, and the rhythm of the day will soon claim your body once more. But before all that, before the scraping of the whetstone and the scent of boiling grain, there was another beginning, a quieter one. Let's go back to the hush before the hearth was lit, before your fingers found the dull edge of a blade, back to that velvet dark where the world was still and heavy, and your body had not yet remembered its aches. Let us slip once more into the earliest breath of the day, into the hour before purpose, when the only sound was the rustle of straw beneath you. There's no alarm clock here. Your day begins with a subtle shift in the darkness, a change in the quality of the nothingness that's cradled you through the night. You wake not to a sound, but to a feeling. It's the rustle of straw beneath you, the dry stalks whispering against your skin. It's the low grunt of the family pig shifting its weight in the corner of your one-room hut, a sound as familiar as your own breathing. There's no grand purpose for your day, no thrilling adventure to be had, no destiny to fulfill. There's only the slow, grueling, and utterly predictable passage of time. The sun that will soon climb the sky, the familiar ache that will settle deep into your muscles, and the bland, forgettable taste of your morning meal. The darkness in the hut is almost absolute. It's a heavy, woolen blanket of black, scented with wood smoke from last night's fire, the damp smell of the earthen floor, and the close animal warmth of your family sleeping nearby. A faint line of lesser dark appears where the ill-fitting door meets its frame, a promise of a dawn that's still a long way off. This is the deepest part of the night, what some call the hour of the wolf, but for you, it's simply the beginning. In the summer, the workday can start as early as 3 in the morning. There is no choice in the matter. The sun is the only clock, and the Lord's fields wait for no one. You lie still for a moment, letting consciousness seep back into your bones. The straw mattress is thin, lumpy, and alive with its own tiny ecosystem. You're used to the occasional itch, the phantom crawl of a flea or a louse, creatures that share your home as surely as the pig does. Your body has become a map of small discomforts, so constant they've faded into the background of your existence. There's a dull ache in your lower back from the hard ground, a stiffness in your neck from the bundled straw that serves as a pillow. These aren't complaints. They're simply facts, as unremarkable as the rising sun. You swing your legs off the low sleeping platform, your bare feet meeting the cold, packed earth of the floor. The air is chilly, carrying the dampness of the pre-dawn world. You move with a practiced quiet, a slow, deliberate motion that won't disturb your sleeping family. Every movement is conserved, every ounce of energy preserved for the long day ahead. You reach for your clothes, which lie in a heap where you left them. You own only one set, a simple tunic of coarse, undyed wool, rough against the skin. It smells of sweat, earth, and smoke. You pull it over your head, the familiar scratchy texture, a daily greeting. Underneath, you wear nothing. Undergarments are a luxury you can't imagine. The wool clings and chafes, a constant, low-grade irritation you stopped noticing long ago. Next are your trousers, a loose-fitting garment of the same homespun wool, tied at the waist with a strip of leather. Finally, you pull on your shoes, if you can call them that. They are simple pieces of tanned leather, perhaps calfskin or goatskin, folded around your feet and secured with leather thongs. They offer minimal protection from the stones and thorns of the world outside and have no support. Your feet are a testament to their inadequacy, calloused and often sore, the toes slightly crooked from years of wear. Many of your neighbors simply go barefoot, but you're fortunate to have these. They're a valuable possession, one you'll repair time and again until the leather gives out completely. Dressed, you're a creature of shades of brown and gray, blending into the gloom of the hut. You can hear the soft breathing of your children, the deeper, slower rhythm of your spouse. The pig shifts again, a wet snuffle in the dark. This is your world, a single, small room shared with everyone and everything you hold dear. It's crowded, it's smoky, it's filled with the smells of life, unwashed and unfiltered. And now, it's time to leave it for the fields. Before the fields, there must be food. Not for pleasure, but for fuel. You move to the center of the hut, where the embers of yesterday's fire still glow a faint, demonic red in a shallow pit. You blow on them gently, coaxing the tiny sparks back to life. Your breath is visible in the cold air, a fleeting cloud of white. You add a few small, dry twigs, then a larger piece of wood from the precious piles stacked against the wall. A small flame flickers, then catches, casting a weak, dancing light across the room. The shadows leap and retreat, making familiar shapes seem strange and monstrous for a moment. Hanging over the fire pit from a simple tripod is a large iron pot, perpetually coated in a layer of soot. This pot is the heart of your family's sustenance. Into it goes water you fetched from the village well last evening. The water is murky, and you know not to drink it on its own, but boiled, it's safe. Now you reach into a sack and pull out a handful of oats or barley, letting the grains fall into the water. This is the basis of almost every meal. They call it pottage, a thick, nourishing stew that's more functional than flavorful. Sometimes, if you're lucky, there might be other things to add. A handful of peas or beans from the small garden patch behind the hut. Perhaps an onion, or the leaves of a wild herb gathered from the verges. But today, it's just grain and water. You stir the mixture with a wooden spoon, the scraping sound loud in the morning quiet. As it heats, the pottage thickens into a gray, lumpy paste. It has no seasoning to speak of. Salt is a luxury, something to be used with extreme care, and spices are the stuff of lords and kings, a world away from this humble pot. The smell begins to fill the hut, a plain, earthy scent of boiled grain. It's not an unpleasant smell, but it is deeply monotonous. It is the smell of survival. Your spouse is awake now, and soon the children stir. There is little conversation. Mornings aren't for talking. They're for the quiet, shared ritual of eating. You ladle the thick pottage into rough wooden bowls. There's no table. You sit on the edge of the sleeping platform, or on a low stool, and eat. You also break off a piece of bread from a dark, dense loaf. It's rye bread, heavy and slightly sour. A few days old, the crust is hard, requiring a strong jaw to chew. You dip the bread into the pottage, softening it, making it easier to swallow. The meal is bland, a texture more than a taste. It's warm in your belly, and that's what matters. It's the energy that will let you walk to the fields and swing a scythe for hours. You eat slowly, methodically, finishing every last drop in your bowl. Nothing is ever wasted. To drink, there is weak, watery ale, often called small beer. It's safer than the water and provides a few extra calories. Brewed at home, the taste is thin and slightly bitter, but it washes down the thick pottage and the hard bread. The children drink it too. You finish your meal as the first true light of dawn filters through the cracks in the walls. The world outside is turning from black to a deep, washed-out gray. The birds are beginning to sing. The day has truly begun. With the meal finished, it's time to go. There is no lingering. You take your tool from its place by the door. Today, it's a scythe, its long wooden handle smooth and worn from countless hours of use. Its curved steel blade sharpened just last night. It's heavy on your shoulder. You and your spouse will walk to the fields together. The older children will stay behind to tend to the garden, look after the pig, and fetch water. You step out of the hut and into the cold morning air. The village is slowly coming to life. Smoke rises from the thatched roofs of other huts, identical to your own. The single narrow street is little more than a muddy track, rutted and uneven. You see the dark shapes of your neighbors, also emerging from their homes, tools on their shoulders, moving with the same slow, determined pace. A few quiet greetings are exchanged, a nod of the head, a murmured word. There is a sense of shared purpose, a communal drudgery that binds you all together. The path out of the village leads towards the Lord's domain, the vast open fields where you and everyone else work. The land is divided into long, thin strips, and each family is assigned several of these to farm. But today, the task is haymaking on the Lord's personal meadow, a duty you must perform for free a certain number of days each week. This is the nature of your life. Your labor is not entirely your own. The walk is long. The landscape is vast and open, a rolling tapestry of greens and browns under a slowly brightening sky. You see the great fields stretching out in every direction, the neat furrows of plowland, the darker green of the common pasture. In the distance, perched on a hill, you can just make out the stone walls of the manor house, a symbol of the power that governs your world. Even further away, the thin spire of the parish church points to the heavens, a reminder of the other great power that shapes your life. Your simple leather shoes squelch in the damp patches of the track. The cold morning air bites at your exposed hands and face. The weight of the scythe on your shoulder is a familiar burden. You walk in silence for the most part, your spouse beside you. The world is filled with the sounds of the morning, the chirping of sparrows, the distant lowing of a cow, the crowing of a rooster that seems to have finally woken up properly. These are the sounds of your world, a gentle, natural soundtrack to the beginning of a day of hard labor. As you get closer to the meadow, you see more people converging from different paths, a slow-moving army of workers armed not with swords, but with scythes and sickles. The sun is now above the horizon, a pale disk in the misty sky. It casts long, distorted shadows across the land. There's a quiet beauty to this moment, a sense of peace before the toil begins. But it's a fleeting peace. The work is waiting, and the sun, as it climbs higher, will become not a source of beauty, but a relentless, oppressive force. The day will be long. You arrive at the meadow. It's a vast sea of tall grass, glittering with dew in the early morning light. The bailiff, the Lord's representative, is already there, his posture stiff and authoritative. He gives a few sharp instructions, and the line of workers spreads out, each taking their place. You stand shoulder to shoulder with your neighbors, a long curving rank of men and women ready to begin the harvest. You take your stance, feet apart, body balanced. You grip the two handles of your scythe, your knuckles white for a moment. Then the work begins. It's a single, rhythmic, flowing motion you've practiced thousands of times. A swing from the right, a powerful twist of the torso, and the sharp blade slices through the base of the grass with a soft, satisfying swish. The cut grass falls neatly to your left. You take a half step forward and repeat the motion. Swish, step, swish, step. This is the rhythm of your morning. It's a dance of labor, repeated over and over. The only sound is the collective whisper of dozens of scythes moving in unison, a sound like the tide washing over a shingle beach. It is monotonous, hypnotic. Your mind begins to empty. There's only the motion, the feel of the wooden handles in your hands, the tension in your back and shoulders, the forward progress, inch by inch, across the meadow. The sun climbs higher in the sky. The dew evaporates, and the air begins to warm. Sweat starts to bead on your forehead, trickling down your temples and into your eyes. You wipe it away with the back of your hand, not breaking the rhythm. The coarse wool of your tunic begins to feel heavy and hot. It traps the heat and itches against your damp skin. You can feel it sticking to your back. Insects stir in the warming air. Flies and gnats buzz around your head, a persistent, annoying cloud. They land on your face, on your arms, drawn to your sweat. You shake your head, you twitch, but they're a constant torment, another small misery to be endured. Inside your leather shoes, your feet are starting to ache from the constant pressure and the uneven ground. A blister is probably forming on your heel. You can feel the telltale rubbing, but there's nothing to be done about it now. You must keep moving. Hour after hour, the work continues. The sun beats down on your back, its warmth now a burning weight. Your muscles burn with the effort. A deep ache settles into your lower back, a familiar companion on every working day. You straighten up for a moment, arching your back to relieve the pressure, and look at the progress you've made. A wide swath of the meadow is now cut, the long grass lying in neat rows, ready to be turned and dried into hay. Behind you, another group of workers, mostly women, follows with wooden rakes, turning the cut grass to expose it to the sun. The work is cooperative, a great machine of human effort. Conversation is minimal. A word here, a sigh there. There's no energy to spare for chatter. The work requires all your focus, all your strength. You fall back into the rhythm. Swish, step, the sun climbs towards its zenith. Your throat is dry. Your body aches. Time seems to slow down. Each swing of the scythe, an eternity. You measure the morning not in hours, but in the distance you've covered, in the growing fatigue in your limbs. You watch the sun's position, waiting, longing for the moment when the distant church bell will toll for midday, signaling a brief, blessed respite. And then it comes. A faint, metallic sound carried on the breeze from the village. The single, clear toll of the church bell, announcing that it's noon. A collective sigh seems to pass through the line of workers. The relentless rhythm breaks. Scythes are lowered to the ground. You straighten your back with a groan, the muscles protesting, stiff and sore. The silence that follows the ceaseless swishing is profound. All you can hear now is the buzz of insects, the song of a skylark high above, and the sound of your own heavy breathing. Respite is short, and you don't waste it. You walk to the edge of the field, seeking the meager shade of a lone oak tree. Others are doing the same, collapsing onto the grass, their faces streaked with sweat and dirt. The air under the tree is still warm, but at least you're out of the direct, punishing glare of the sun. You sit down heavily, your legs feeling weak beneath you. You pull off your simple shoes, letting your hot, aching feet breathe. As you suspected, a raw blister has formed on your heel, red and angry against the dirt-caked skin. You look at it with weary resignation. It will be painful this afternoon. Your spouse joins you, handing you a cloth bundle. This is your midday meal. You unwrap it. Inside is a hunk of the same dark rye bread from this morning, and a small wedge of hard, crumbly cheese. That's all. Meat is a rarity, a luxury for feast days, not for a common workday in the fields. You also have a flask made from a cured animal bladder, containing more of the weak, lukewarm ale. You eat slowly, savoring the rest more than the food itself. The bread is dry and requires significant chewing, but it's filling. The cheese is salty and strong, a welcome burst of flavor after the blandness of the morning's pottage. You take a long drink of the ale. It isn't refreshing in the way cool water would be, but it's liquid, and it helps to wash away the dust that coats your throat. It does little to quench your thirst, but it's what you have. You sit in near silence, chewing your meal. Around you, other groups of workers are doing the same. The conversation is sparse, Tired murmurs about the work, the heat, the state of the crops. There's no laughter, no lively debate. Energy is a precious commodity, not to be wasted on unnecessary words. You look out over the field. Half of it is now shorn, the grass lying in neat windrows under the high sun. It's a satisfying sight, a tangible result of your morning's labor. But the other half still stands tall, waiting. The afternoon stretches before you, a mirror image of the morning, just as long, just as grueling. You have perhaps half an hour. You close your eyes for a few moments, leaning your head back against the rough bark of the oak tree. The ache in your back is a dull, constant throb. Your hands are stiff and calloused. Your feet burn. This is the reality of your life, a cycle of toil and brief rest, governed by the sun and the bell. The respite is a small island of stillness in a vast ocean of labor. And soon the tide of work will rise again. You finish your bread and cheese, take one last swig of ale, and mentally prepare yourself to stand up, pick up your scythe, and return to the line. The day is only half over. The bailiff doesn't need to shout. A simple gesture is enough. The break is over. Slowly, stiffly, the workers rise to their feet. You push yourself up, your joints creaking in protest. You force your sore feet back into your rough leather shoes, the blister on your heel sending a sharp, stinging complaint up your leg. You ignore it. You have to. You walk back out from the shade of the tree into the full, oppressive heat of the afternoon sun. The light seems harsher now, the air thick and shimmering with heat above the cut grass. You pick up your scythe. The wooden handle feels hot to the touch. You find your place back in the line, and the rhythm begins anew. Swish, step, swish, step. But it's different now. The easy, flowing motion of the morning is gone, replaced by a heavier, more deliberate effort. Every swing feels like it takes more energy. Your body, already tired, has to be forced into the familiar pattern. The ache in your back is no longer a dull throb. It's a sharp, insistent pain that radiates with every twist of your torso. The afternoon sun is relentless. There are no clouds to offer a moment's relief. It beats down on your head and neck, and you can feel the heat radiating from the ground. Sweat pours from you now, drenching your woolen tunic until it feels like a heavy, wet blanket clinging to your skin. Dust and pollen from the cut grass stick to your damp face, creating a gritty mask. Your thirst is a constant nagging presence in the back of your throat. The ale from lunch is a distant memory. Time seems to warp in the afternoon heat. The minutes stretch, elongating into vast, empty deserts of repetitive motion. The monotony is profound, soul-crushing. Swish, step, your mind drifts. You think of nothing, and then of everything. You think of the cool water in the village well. You think of the evening meal, which will be the same as the morning meal. You think of the straw mattress and the blessed relief asleep. You think of the Lord in his stone manor, cool and comfortable. You think of the endless cycle of the seasons, the plowing, the sowing, the reaping. A life of work that never truly changes, year after year. Your thoughts are a meaningless hum beneath the rhythm of the work. The landscape itself seems to have fallen into a stupor. The birds are quiet. The only sounds are the whisper of the scythes, the buzz of insects, and the occasional grunt or sigh from a fellow worker. Your world has shrunk to the few feet of uncut grass in front of you, the worn handle of your tool, and the burning protest of your own body. The pain in your heel is a sharp, rhythmic spike with every step. Your shoulders scream. Your hands feel numb. You keep going because you have no other choice. This is survival. This hay will feed the Lord's animals through the winter. Your work ensures the functioning of the manor, and in turn, your own precarious place within it. To stop is unthinkable. So you push the pain and fatigue down into a deep well of endurance you never knew you had. You focus on the next swing, and the next, and the next. You become a machine of flesh and bone, programmed to perform this one simple, grueling task. You watch the sun on its slow, agonizing journey down the western sky. Its light begins to soften, the color shifting from a harsh white gold to a warmer, gentler yellow. The shadows of the trees and hedgerows begin to lengthen, stretching like long, dark fingers across the shorn field. This is the only sign of progress, the only clock that matters. The end of the day is approaching. It's still hours away, but it's coming. That faint hope is the fuel that keeps you moving, swing after weary swing, through the endless, unchanging afternoon. Finally, the character of the light changes unmistakably. The fierce heat of the day begins to ebb away, replaced by the soft, golden glow of late afternoon. The sun hangs low in the western sky, painting the clouds in hues of orange and pink. The bailiff, seeing the light begin to fail, gives the signal. The work is done for today. The sound of the scythe ceases one by one until a deep, weary silence falls over the field. You stand motionless for a long moment, leaning on your scythe, every muscle in your body screaming with a mixture of pain and relief. You look back at the meadow. It's completely shorn, a vast, tidy expanse of cut grass lying in endless rows. A full day's work. A day of your life spent. The feeling isn't one of pride or satisfaction, but of simple, profound exhaustion. Slowly, you begin the process of packing up. You wipe the blade of your scythe with a handful of grass to clean it, a gesture of care for the tool that is your livelihood. You shoulder it once more. The weight seems 10 times heavier than it did this morning. You and your spouse gather together, your movements slow and stiff, like old people. You join the general, silent exodus from the field. The walk home is a slow, shuffling procession. No one speaks. The only sounds are the scuffing of weary feet on the dusty track and the clink of tools. Your body is a symphony of aches. Your back is a solid block of pain. Your shoulders burn. Your legs are heavy as lead, and every step sends a jolt of fire from the blister on your heel. You walk with a slight limp, trying to ease the pressure. The world around you is beautiful, bathed in the gentle light of dusk. The air is cooling, and the scents of the earth and the cut hay are rich and sweet. But you're almost too tired to notice. Your focus is narrowed to the simple act of putting one foot in front of the other, of covering the distance between the field and your home. As you approach the village, you see the familiar sight of smoke curling from the thatched roofs, a welcome sign of fire and the evening meal. You see children playing in the last of the light, their energy a stark contrast to your own depletion. The sounds of the village greet you. A dog barking, the lowing of cattle being brought in for the night, the distant clang of the blacksmith's hammer as he finishes his own day's work. You're not just tired in your body. You're tired in your soul. It's the deep bone weariness that comes from a day of relentless, repetitive, physical labor under a hot sun. A day that's nearly identical to the day before it, and will be nearly identical to the day that follows. It is the exhaustion of monotony. You reach your hut. The simple, dark doorway has never looked so inviting. It represents the end of labor. It represents rest. You don't think about tomorrow. You can't. All that matters is this moment, this threshold, this promise of a few brief hours of peace before the cycle begins all over again. You stoop to enter the hut. The air inside is warm and thick, with the smell of wood smoke and the pottage that's once again bubbling over the fire. Your children are there, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. The pig gives a welcoming grunt from its corner. This small, smoky, crowded space is your sanctuary. But the day's work isn't quite finished. First, you must tend to the pig, giving it scraps and water. You check on the handful of chickens in their small coop outside. These animals are a vital part of your survival, and their needs must be met before your own. Your movements are mechanical, driven by long habit rather than conscious thought. Once the animals are settled, you can finally attend to yourself. You go to the wooden bucket of water. Your children fetch it from the well. It is cold. You splash your face and hands, washing away the layers of dust and sweat. The cold water is a shock, but a welcome one, briefly reviving your tired senses. You have no soap. Water is the only cleanser you have. A full bath is a luxury you can't afford in time or resources. While people certainly bathed, this quick wash is all you have the means for tonight. You're clean enough. Now you can sit. You sink onto a low stool by the fire, a groan of relief escaping your lips. You hold your hands out to the warmth of the flames, feeling the heat penetrate your stiff, aching fingers. For the first time since the midday break, your body is completely at rest. The evening meal is served. It is, as you expected, pottage, identical to the meal you ate some 16 hours ago. It's served with another piece of the hard, dark bread. You eat it without enthusiasm, but with a deep animal gratitude. It is food. It replenishes some of the vast energy you expended today. You eat in silence, listening to the crackle and pop of the fire. This is the quietest time of the day, a time for silent communion with your family, all of you united in shared fatigue. There's no entertainment, no books to read, no stories to tell. Sometimes in the dead of winter, there might be time for mending tools or weaving cloth by the firelight. But in the summer, after a day like this, there's only tiredness. The world outside the hut is now completely dark. The only light is from the fire. It casts a warm orange glow on the faces of your family, painting them in soft light and deep shadow. Your eyelids feel heavy. The warmth of the fire, combined with your utter exhaustion, is a powerful soporific. Your thoughts begin to dissolve. The pains of your body, the memory of the sun, the endless monotony of the fields, it all begins to fade into a dull, featureless background. Your world shrinks down to this small, warm space, this flickering light, and the overwhelming, irresistible pull of sleep. That sparse midday meal is already a distant memory. The hard, dark bread and watery ale didn't do much for the familiar ache in your stomach, but it was just enough fuel to face the rest of the day. You feel the rough-spun cloth of your tunic, coarse and familiar, scratching softly against your skin as you step out of the smoky darkness of your hut and back into the afternoon light. The air is thick, a mixture of smells. There's the sweet, dry scent of hay from the fields, the rich, earthy aroma of manure from the animal pens, and the constant, almost reassuring smell of wood smoke hanging like a haze over the village. From the church at the heart of your small world, a bell begins to toll. It's the hour of nones, the 9th hour after sunrise, a signal that your brief break is over. It's time to get back to the endless cycle of chores that makes up your life. The sound isn't jarring. It's as much a part of the afternoon as the sunlight and the lazy buzzing of flies. It is the rhythm of your life, a sound that marks the slow, steady passage of time in this forgotten world. Let the gentle monotony of the afternoon's work, the hypnotic hum of the village, and the endless tolling of that distant bell guide you now toward rest and toward sleep. The sun is past its peak now, casting long, lazy shadows across the packed earth lanes of the village. Your footsteps are silent on the soft dirt, a path worn smooth by generations of feet just like yours. Chickens scratch and cluck near the doorway of a hut, their movements quick and nervous. A dog barks somewhere off in the distance, a sharp sound that's quickly swallowed by the general hum of the afternoon. You're not alone, of course. In a place like this, you're never truly alone. The village is a living thing, a tightly woven community where every life is tangled up with the next. You see Goodwife Agnes across the way, her back bent as she shakes out the old rushes from her floor, a cloud of dust and dried herbs rising around her. You give her a slow nod, a simple gesture that needs no words. She returns it, her face weathered and tired, before turning back to her work. Gossip and news travel on the breeze here, carried in hushed tones between neighbors leaning on fences or pausing at the well. Who's ill? Whose cow finally calved? What the Lord's Reeve said on his last visit. It's a quiet, continuous murmur, the social fabric of a world where being interdependent isn't a choice, but a means of survival. The air itself seems to hum with the sound of work. It's a low, hypnotic chorus of activity. From one side comes the soft, rhythmic scraping of a knife on wood as a neighbor mends a broken tool. From another, the gentle, repetitive thud of a mallet against a post, a fence being repaired. And through it all, the distant, metallic ring of the blacksmith's hammer, a steady beat that is the village's own heartbeat. It's a sound so constant you barely notice it, but its absence would feel like a deep, profound silence. These are the sounds of a community taking care of itself, because there is no one else to do it. You walk past your own small garden plot, the toft tucked beside your wattle and daub house. The onions and leeks grow in messy but determined rows. Their green shoots a splash of life against the brown earth. These vegetables are the foundation of your evening meal, the pottage that will simmer over the fire, a thick stew of whatever the earth provides. It's a meal that is both comforting in its familiarity and dull in its repetition. Like everything else in your life, it's governed by the seasons and the soil. The Nones bell has long since faded, its sound absorbed by the thatched roofs and wooden walls of the village. But it lingers in your mind, a marker in a day that's otherwise measured only by the height of the sun and the ache in your muscles. Time here isn't something to be saved or spent. It's a river flowing at its own pace, carrying you along with it. The church is the center of this world, not just spiritually, but physically and temporally. Its stone tower is the tallest thing you've ever seen. Its bells are the voice of the community, calling you to prayer, warning of danger, celebrating a rare feast day, and marking the hours of your labor. Cast with prayers on their bronze surfaces, their ringing is believed to hold power, to ward off storms and evil spirits. To you, they are simply the clock of your world, a constant reminder of the unyielding pattern of your days. The sun is warm on your shoulders, but a slight breeze carries the damp, cool smell of the nearby stream. You're heading towards the edge of your family's small strip of land, a long, narrow parcel that is your responsibility. It's precisely measured, just as every family's is, a system passed down through generations. The very idea of an acre was born from strips like these, a patch of earth that one man and his ox could plow in a single day. But there's no plowing today. That season has passed. Today, there are repairs to be made. There is always something to be mended. The work is never truly done. It's a cycle, as relentless and dependable as the sun. And in its endless repetition, there is a strange kind of peace. Your mind doesn't need to race with plans or worries. It just needs to focus on the task at hand. The dull, hypnotic rhythm of the afternoon has begun, and you let it carry you away. You arrive at the edge of your strip, where it borders your neighbors. The boundary is marked by a low wattle fence, a simple weave of branches between upright posts. A section of it has sagged, its hazel branches frayed and broken, leaving a gap where a stray pig or an adventurous sheep could easily wander through. It's a small problem, but in a world where your livestock is your wealth, a small problem can quickly become a large one. Your first task is to find materials. This isn't a matter of going to a store. It's about knowing your environment, of seeing resources where a modern eye would just see a hedge. You walk along the edge of a small copse, ordering the common land, your eyes scanning the undergrowth for young, supple hazel branches, long and straight enough to be woven. You find a thicket, and using the small, dull knife you carry at your belt, you begin to cut what you need. The knife isn't sharp, but it gets the job done. Each cut is a slow, sawing motion. The scent of freshly cut sap rises into the air, a clean, sharp smell. You gather a dozen branches and carry them back to the broken fence. You sit on the ground, the damp earth seeping slightly through your tunic. The work is methodical, almost meditative. First, you pull out the old, brittle branches, their wood dry and splintered. They snap and crackle in your hands. Then you take one of the new, green branches. You find the end and begin to weave it through the upright posts, in and out, over and under the existing structure. The branch is flexible, bending to your will. You pull it taut, making sure the weave is tight. Then you take another, overlapping it with the first, and continue the pattern. In and out, over and under. Your hands know this rhythm. Your mind is quiet. There's no complex problem to solve here. Just simple, repeated motion. Weave the branch, pull it tight, take the next one. The sun beats down on your back, a pleasant warmth. A bee hums lazily past your ear. The distant sound of the blacksmith's hammer continues its steady beat. You can hear the lowing of a cow from a nearby pasture. These are the only things that occupy your senses. Your world has shrunk to this small section of fence. Your thoughts are simple observations. This branch is a little thick. That post is leaning. The sun is getting lower. It's a state of deep, uncomplicated presence. The anxieties of the modern world are 1,000 years away. Here, there is only this fence, this branch, this moment. Once the weaving is complete, you decide to reinforce the patch. You walk to a familiar spot near the stream, where the clay is thick and pliable. You use a small wooden paddle to dig a heavy clump of it into a bucket. Add a handful of dried grass, a little water, and then plunge your hands in. The cold, slick mud oozes between your fingers as you knead it like dough, your hands and forearms quickly coated in a thick, gray glove. The texture is smooth and heavy, the process slow and messy. Back at the fence, you scoop up a handful of the thick, wet mud. It's heavy and cool in your palm. You begin to plaster it onto the woven branches, pushing it into the gaps, smoothing it over the surface. While daub is more commonly used for the walls of a house, it makes for a good patch. Your fingers are your best tool. You work the daub into the weave, creating a more solid barrier. The repetitive motion is hypnotic. The cool mud is a soothing balm on your skin. You are a part of this landscape. The wood you weave is from the trees that grow here. The clay you smear is from the earth beneath your feet. You aren't its master, but its custodian in a constant, quiet dialogue of work and sustenance. As you finish, you sit back to look at your work. The patch is darker than the rest of the fence, the daub still wet and gray. But it's solid, it's strong, it will hold. A small, quiet feeling of satisfaction settles over you. Not the thrill of a great achievement, but the simple contentment of a necessary job done well. You take your bucket to the stream to wash. The water is cold, making your skin tingle as you scrub the drying clay from your hands and arms. The afternoon is wearing on. Another task awaits. But for this brief moment, there is nothing to do but feel the cool water and the warm sun. Leaving the newly mended fence behind, you turn your attention to the family's animals. They're the difference between a hard winter and starvation, your most valuable possessions. Your family doesn't own a great herd, maybe just a single cow, a few sheep, and a pig. Today, you need to check on the pig. You walk towards the small, crude sty built against the back of your hut. As you approach, the pig, a large, hairy sow, stirs and lets out a series of low, contented grunts. She knows your footsteps. The air here is pungent with animal sweat, mud, and manure. It's a smell that would be overwhelming to a modern nose, but to you, it's just the smell of survival. Pigs are prized because they're so resourceful, able to forage for acorns and roots in the woods, turning the forest floor into meat. But they still need care. Your first task is to muck out the sty. You take up a wooden shovel, its surface worn smooth with use. The floor is a deep litter of old straw and manure. It's heavy, wet work. You drive the shovel into the muck and lift, your back and shoulders straining. You toss the used litter onto a growing pile nearby, a dark, steaming mound that will eventually fertilize the fields. Nothing is wasted. The work is rhythmic and strenuous. Dig, lift, turn, toss. Sweat beads on your forehead. The pig watches you with small, intelligent eyes, occasionally nudging your leg with her snout. You don't think of the work as disgusting. It's just a task that must be done. After clearing a space, you lay down a fresh layer of straw. Its clean, dry scent temporarily overpowers the smell of the sty. The pig immediately begins to root around in it, snuffling with pleasure. Next, you fill a heavy wooden bucket from the village well and pour the water into a hollowed-out log that serves as a trough. She drinks noisily, the sound echoing in the quiet afternoon. Her meal is a collection of scraps, leftover whey from cheese-making, vegetable peelings, and a handful of barley. You pour the coarse mash into her trough, and she eats with gusto. You lean against the sty for a moment, catching your breath, watching her. There's a quiet connection between you and the animal. You provide for her, and she will provide for your family. It's a bond not of sentimentality, but of mutual dependence, a respect born of shared existence. The sun is lower now, the light softer, more golden. The shadows are stretching long across the village. The hum of activity from earlier has quieted. The day is winding down. From the church tower, the bell rings again. This is the call to vespers, the evening prayer. For the monks in the distant priory, it's a time of solemn worship. For you, it signals that the workday is officially over. It's time to put away your tools and return home. The vespers bell sounds softer than the nones bell, a welcome sound, a promise of rest and a hot meal, however simple. You duck to enter the low doorway of your home. Inside, the air is thick with the lingering smell of the central hearth, where the fire is always kept smoldering under a layer of ash. The interior is one large room, serving as kitchen, living space, and bedroom for the whole family. Light struggles to pierce the gloom, filtering through the open door and a couple of small, shuttered openings high on the wall. The rafters above are blackened with soot. The floor beneath your feet isn't wood or stone, but hard-packed earth. And it's this floor that is the final chore of the day, a task that falls to the women of the household, a task that is never truly finished. Your wife is already at it, a crude broom made of bound twigs in her hands. She is sweeping the dirt floor, her movements slow and practiced. But sweeping a dirt floor is an exercise in futility. The act itself stirs up more dust than it collects. You watch as motes of dust and bits of straw dance in the fading sunlight. The goal isn't perfect cleanliness, an impossible concept, but basic order. After sweeping, your wife might scatter fresh rushes or sweet-smelling herbs on the floor. This helps trap some of the dust and releases a pleasant fragrance when crushed underfoot, lavender, chamomile, or mint, a small luxury in a world of harsh realities. The furniture is sparse and functional. A rough-hewn trestle table sits near the hearth, easily taken apart to make space at night. A few simple stools, a wooden chest holding the family's few valuable possessions, and that's about it. Proper beds are a luxury few can afford. Most sleep as your family does, on straw pallets. Some might be laid directly on the floor, but others, like yours, rest on a low wooden frame to provide some distance from the cold ground and any rustling vermin. Your wife leans the broom against the wall and moves to the hearth, where a large, black pot sits over the glowing embers. She lifts the lid and stirs the pottage, the evening meal. It's the same meal you had last night, and the one you'll have tomorrow. A thick stew of peas, beans, or oats, flavored with onions, leeks, and whatever else is on hand. Meat is a rarity, saved for feast days. The pottage is nutritious enough for a life of hard labor, but it is endlessly, soul-crushingly monotonous. You sit on a low stool, the weariness of the day settling deep into your bones. The light outside is fading fast. The village is growing quiet, the sounds of work replaced by the softer sounds of evening. Your world for the next few hours is the single room with its smoky air, its earthen floor, and the comforting presence of your family. The day is done. You've survived it. The rhythm of your life is one of repetition, a circle of tasks and seasons. And now, as the last of the light dies, the only thing left to do is eat, and then to seek the oblivion of sleep, ready to rise with the sun and begin the cycle all over again. You give the pig one last look, latch the simple wooden gate, and turn your back on the fields. A deep, bone-weary tiredness has settled into your body, a satisfying exhaustion that comes from a day of physical labor. You walk towards the low, open doorway of your home. As twilight descends, the day's hard labor gives way to the evening's gentle rhythm. The sun has dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the fields you've toiled in since sunrise. Your body aches with a deep, familiar weariness, earned under a vast and open sky. Join us and a peasant family from long ago for their simple supper and the quiet rituals that follow. Listen to the stories told by the hearth as the world, and you wind down into a peaceful slumber. Let the cares of your day fade as we step back into a simpler, quieter time. There's nothing for you to do now but rest and listen. The work is done. The day is over. It's time to go home. The air is cooling, a welcome relief on your sun-beaten skin. You straighten your back, a slow, deliberate movement that sends a familiar complaint through your muscles. The ache is a constant companion, a testament to a life lived in the fields, governed by the sun and seasons. You look down at your hands, calloused and stained with the earth you've worked all day. They are strong hands, capable hands, the only tools you can truly call your own. The wooden handle of the sickle is worn smooth, shaped by the grip of your father and his father before him. It feels less like a tool and more like an extension of your arm. With a final glance at the darkening sky, you gather your few things. The sickle, a small water skin, now empty, and a coarse linen bag that held your meager lunch of dark bread and a bit of hard cheese. The sounds of the day are fading. The birds are singing their final songs, and the rhythmic clang of the blacksmith's hammer has fallen silent. Now the dominant sound is the whisper of wind through the remaining stalks of grain, a soft sighing sound that seems to speak of rest. You aren't alone in this quiet exodus from the fields. Dotted across the landscape, other figures move slowly, shoulders stooped, their gaits heavy with the same fatigue that settles into your own bones. There are no loud calls or hurried goodbyes. Just a shared, unspoken understanding. The day's labor is complete. Each step on the well-worn path leading back to the village is a step away from toil and towards the small comforts of home. The path is uneven, rutted by cartwheels and countless feet. You know its every dip and rise by heart, navigating it without a thought as the last sliver of sun disappears, leaving the world in a soft, purple-gray light. The village is a small cluster of simple huts, nestled together as if for warmth. As you draw closer, new sounds and smells reach you. The lowing of a cow led to its shelter, the bleating of sheep, the soft clucking of chickens settling in for the night. Pale, thin smoke rises from the holes in the thatched roofs, carrying the promise of a fire and a warm meal. It's the smell of home, of wood smoke, animals, damp earth, and cooking pottage. It's a smell that has greeted you at the end of every day you can remember. It's the smell of survival. You don't quicken your pace. There's no need. The evening unfolds at its own rhythm, a slow, predictable pattern as reliable as the sunrise. The work is done, and the night offers a brief respite, a quiet harbor between one long day and the next. The energy in the village is winding down, a collective exhale. Voices are muted, movements unhurried. The day is a relentless master, but the evening belongs to you. It's a small kingdom of time, bordered by sunset and sleep, and you are about to enter it. Your home isn't much different from your neighbor's. The walls are wattle and daub, a woven lattice of twigs packed with clay, mud, and animal hair. The roof is a thick layer of thatch, home to insects and mice, but it keeps out the worst of the rain. There's no glass in the windows, only small openings with wooden shutters, closed tight at night against the cold and the unknown dark. You duck your head to enter through the low doorway. Inside, it's a single, large room. The floor is beaten earth, hard-packed from years of use, sometimes scattered with straw for warmth and to soak up spills. It's dark. The only light comes from the central hearth, where a fire smolders. The air is thick with smoke, since there's no proper chimney, just a hole in the roof above the fire. It's a hazy environment, but the fire is the heart of the home. It provides warmth, cooks the food, and its light holds the darkness at bay. It's a living thing, tended with care, because letting it go out is a real misfortune. Your family is already here. Your wife moves near the hearth, her silhouette a familiar, comforting shape against the flickering flames. Her movements are practiced and efficient as she stirs the large cauldron hanging over the fire. Your children, small shadows in the gloom, sit on low stools, their faces lit by the warm glow, rubbing sleep from their eyes. In one corner, separated by a low, crude screen, are the family's most valuable possessions, the cow and maybe a few chickens. They live with you, their warmth helping to heat the small space on cold nights, their presence a constant reminder of the fragile line between having enough and having nothing. Keeping them inside protects them from predators and thieves. The soft sounds of their shifting and breathing are part of the house's nightly symphony. There's little furniture. A long, rough-hewn trestle table stands in the center, flanked by two simple benches, ready to be taken apart and set aside for more space. Along one wall is a wooden chest for the family's few linens and spare clothes. Wooden bowls and spoons are stacked near the hearth, ready for the evening meal. Everything is simple, practical, born of necessity. Nothing you own exists just for beauty. Everything serves a purpose. You lean your sickle against the wall and move toward the fire, extending your hands to the warmth. The heat seeps into your chilled fingers, easing the stiffness. Your wife looks up and gives you a small, tired smile. No words are exchanged. None are needed. This is the ritual, the silent homecoming. The world outside, with its demands and hardships, is shut away for a few precious hours. Inside this small, smoky room, surrounded by your family and the gentle sounds of the hearth, you are safe. You're home. The day has been long, but now it's time for supper. The evening meal is the anchor of the day. It's a quiet ritual that brings the family together, and the meal itself is humble, changing little from one day to the next. Tonight, like most nights, it's pottage. This is the staple food of your life, a thick stew of vegetables and grains simmered for hours over the fire. You recognize the smell of peas and dark beans, maybe with some turnips or leeks from your little garden plot. It's a nourishing meal, designed to fill the stomach and give you the energy for another day of hard labor. Your wife ladles the steaming pottage into wooden bowls, dark with age and worn smooth from countless meals. She hands one to you, and you take it with both hands, feeling the warmth seep through the wood. The children take their bowls and sit quietly on their stools, already scooping up the meal with their own smaller spoons. You sit on the bench at the trestle table, the rough wood familiar beneath your hands. Alongside the pottage, there's bread. Not the fine, white bread of the nobility, but a dark, dense loaf made from rye or barley flour. Your wife breaks off a large piece and hands it to you. It's coarse, but it's filling. You dip a corner into the hot pottage, letting it soak up the savory liquid. The taste is simple and earthy, There are no exotic spices. The flavor comes from the vegetables and perhaps a few wild herbs gathered from the edge of the forest. Meat is a luxury for feast days. Sometimes the pottage might be flavored with a piece of bacon, but tonight it's just vegetables. The family eats in a comfortable silence, punctuated only by the scrape of spoons against wood and the soft crackle of the fire. The day was for work. The evening is for quiet. There's no rush. You eat slowly, savoring the warmth and the feeling of your empty stomach filling up. This meal is the reward for your labor, the fuel for tomorrow. To drink, there's weak ale. It's safer than water from the stream and provides extra calories. Your wife brews it at home, and every household's ale has its own slightly different flavor. You drink from a shared earthenware jug, passing it around. The ale is thin, more of a liquid bread than an intoxicant, and it washes down the thick pottage and heavy bread. As you eat, you watch the firelight play across the familiar faces of your family, softening the hard lines of weariness. It casts dancing shadows on the wattle and daub walls, making the small room feel both larger and more intimate. The world outside has gone completely dark now. The wooden shutters are latched, the heavy door barred. Inside is this small circle of warmth and light, a tiny island of peace in the vast medieval night. You finish your pottage, using the last piece of bread to wipe the bowl clean. Nothing is wasted. Every crumb, every drop is precious. The meal is over. It wasn't a feast, but it was enough. It was warm, it was filling, and it was shared. For a medieval peasant, that is a profound comfort. The quiet satisfaction of a full belly settles over you as the fire burns low and the time for stories begins. The end of the meal flows seamlessly into the next quiet ritual, cleaning up. Of course, there's no sink with running water. This task, like all others, is simple and manual. Your wife gathers the empty wooden bowls and spoons. The eldest son knows his role and fetches a bucket of cold water from the barrel just outside, carrying it carefully to avoid spilling a drop. Water is a precious resource, carried by hand from the village well or a nearby stream. Your wife kneels by the hearth, the bucket beside her. She doesn't use soap. Instead, she uses a handful of sand or ash from the fire as a scourer. She dips a rough cloth into the water and scrubs each bowl, the abrasive sand removing any leftover pottage. The sound is rhythmic and soothing, a gentle scraping and splashing that becomes part of the evening soundscape. The children watch, learning the motions, knowing that one day this task will be theirs. Sometimes they help, washing their own small spoons, their little hands mimicking their mother's. It's a lesson in responsibility, taught not through words, but through shared daily practice. As each bowl is cleaned, it's rinsed with a splash of fresh water and set upside down on a stone near the hearth to dry. The fire's warmth will have them ready for the morning. The process is unhurried. There's no need to rush. The light from the fire is enough for the task, casting a warm glow on your wife's focused face and the simple wooden utensils. You sit on the bench, your body heavy and relaxed after the meal. You might take this time to do a small bit of mending, a loose leather strap on your shoe, or a tool handle that needs smoothing. You work by the flickering light, your hands, so used to heavy labor, now performing a delicate, careful task. Mending is as much a part of this life as toiling. Nothing is disposable. Everything is repaired and reused until it falls apart. This quiet time after the meal is a gentle transition. The physical needs have been met, and the energy in the small hut shifts. The practical tasks of survival, eating, cleaning, mending, begin to give way to a different kind of sustenance. The fire crackles, the bowls are clean, the family is together. The world outside is still. It's the perfect time for stories, the time when the day is truly put to rest. An elder, perhaps your father who shares your home, clears their throat. The stories are about to begin. With the chores done, The family draws closer to the hearth. This is the time of the Veli, the evening gathering, a tradition as old as the village itself. This is where news is shared, wisdom is passed down, and the history of your people is kept alive. Not the history of kings, but of your own kin. Your father, his face a roadmap of wrinkles carved by sun and time, sits on the best stool, closest to the fire. His eyes, though old, are clear in the firelight. The children settle at his feet on the straw-strewn floor, chins on their knees, faces upturned. Storytelling is the only entertainment you have, but it's more than that. It is your library, your school, your connection to the generations before you. Tonight, your father begins a familiar tale. His voice is a low rumble, weathered and comforting like old wood. He speaks of a time when the forest was enchanted, when animals could speak to those with the right kind of heart. He tells a story not of heroes in shining armor, but of a clever fox and a foolish wolf. The wolf, your father begins, his eyes fixed on the flames, was a proud creature, always boasting of his strength. He saw the fox, small and quick, and sneered. "You are weak, little fox. You survive on scraps and cunning. I survive on power." The fox, who was grooming his tail by a stream, just smiled. "Power is a heavy coat to wear on a hot day, Brother Wolf. Cunning is as light as a feather, and it can fly you out of any trap." The children are rapt. They've heard this story before, but they love it all the same. The characters are like neighbors. The story meanders, full of small details, the way the forest smells after rain, the taste of wild berries. There are no grand battles, only small contests of wits. The wolf tries to catch a fat goose by charging straight at it, only to fail when it flies away. The fox, however, pretends to be asleep, and when the curious goose comes closer, he snatches it for his dinner. The tale is simple, its moral woven into the narrative. Cleverness is better than brute force, patience is a virtue, and pride leads to an empty belly. These are the lessons of a peasant's life, reinforced in the firelight. The stories are often cautionary. Some are darker, speaking of werewolves who prey on those who wander too far from the village, a stark reminder to stay close to the safety of the community. Others are fables that poke fun at the greedy or the vain, often thinly veiled jabs at the local lord or a pompous priest. As your father speaks, the only other sounds are the crackling logs and the sigh of the wind outside. The firelight makes shadows dance on the walls, and for a moment the shapes seem to form a long-nosed wolf and a clever fox. The world of the story and your small hut merge into one. The tale is not just a distraction. It's a way of understanding the world. It explains why you must be wary, why you must be clever, and why you must rely on your community. The story of the fox and the wolf comes to its gentle conclusion. The fox is fed, the wolf is hungry, and the forest remains as it always has been. Your father's voice trails off. He ends not with a grand finale, but with a quiet sigh. The children are sleepy now, their heads nodding. The story has done its work, calming their minds. The fire has burned down to glowing embers, and the room is warmer, quieter. The day, with its labor, its small meal, and its old story, is finally complete. The time for rest is here. The end of the story is the final signal for the day's closure. A deep, peaceful quiet settles over the room, full of the soft sounds of impending sleep. The fire is just a bed of glowing red embers, providing a faint, warm light and a gentle, radiating heat. It's time to prepare for bed. Your wife rises and moves to the door, lifting the heavy wooden bar and setting it into place. This simple act is a powerful one. It separates the small, warm world of your home from the vast, dark world outside, a barrier against the cold, wild animals and the unknown spirits said to roam the night. With the door barred, the family is sealed in its sanctuary until morning. Next comes prayer. Religion is woven into the fabric of your existence. Your family kneels on the hard earth floor or simply bows your heads where you sit. The prayers are quiet, murmured words of thanks for surviving another day, for the food you ate, for the roof over your head. You pray for protection through the night, for strength for tomorrow's labor, for the health of your children and your livestock. It is a simple, earnest plea, a moment of reflection that brings a sense of peace, of having done all that you can and leaving the rest to fate or to God. There are no special night clothes. You'll sleep in the same coarse wool or linen tunic and trousers you wore all day. Your bed is a simple pallet on the floor, a rough cloth bag stuffed with straw or dried leaves. The whole family often shares one large sleeping area, huddling together for warmth. The children are already half asleep as your wife guides them to the pallet, where they curl up together under a shared woolen blanket. You and your wife lie down on your own straw pallet nearby. The straw rustles as you settle in, a sound as familiar as your own breathing. You might rest your head on a smooth log instead of a pillow. It isn't comfortable by modern standards, but it's all you've ever known, and the discomfort quickly fades as deep weariness takes over. The sounds of the night are intimate and close. You can hear the rhythmic breathing of your children, the gentle shifting and occasional snort of the cow in its corner. From outside, maybe the hoot of an owl or the distant howl of a wolf, sounds that only reinforce the feeling of safety inside your barred home. The fire is almost out, and the darkness is nearly complete, a profound velvety darkness, unbroken by any artificial light. Interestingly, your sleep may not be a single, unbroken stretch. Many people in this era experience a first sleep and a second sleep. You might fall into a deep slumber for several hours, only to wake naturally around midnight. This isn't a source of anxiety. It's a quiet, peaceful time for a drink of water, for reflection, or to speak softly with your wife in the darkness. After an hour or so, you would simply lie back down and drift into your second sleep, which would last until dawn. It's a natural rhythm, aligned with the long, dark nights. But for now, as you lie on your straw pallet, the first sleep is calling. The aches in your body are fading, replaced by a heavy, welcome drowsiness. The images of the day, the sun, the fields, the earth, dissolve into the darkness. The stories have been told, the prayers said, the family is safe. There is nothing left to do but surrender to the night. Imagine the sky, a vast, open canvas above a small village of wattle and daub houses. The sun, a great orange disk, is sinking low, bleeding its last colors across the horizon. The sharp edges of the day begin to soften. The air, which had been filled with the sounds of work, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the distant shouting of men in the fields, the chatter at the village well, now begins to change its tune. The sounds become slower, more deliberate. There is the heavy, wooden scrape of a plow being dragged back from the fields, its iron tip scoring a final line in the dusty track. You can hear the lowing of cattle, a deep and weary sound, as they're led from the common pasture toward the safety of their shelters for the night. The bleating of sheep, the grunting of pigs, the scattershot clucking of chickens being shooed into coops, all are part of this evening chorus. These are the sounds of a world being put away, of tools being cleaned and stored, of animals being secured against the coming dark. A father calls out to his son, his voice not shouting, but carrying clearly in the cooling air, a simple instruction to latch a gate. A mother's voice drifts from a doorway, calling her children back from their last game of the day, their small figures trailing long shadows as they run home. Slowly, methodically, the village begins to close in on itself. Heavy wooden shutters, unpainted and weathered, are pushed into place over small, unglazed window openings and secured from within by a simple wooden bar. The world outside is being shut out. Doors made of thick, rough-hewn planks are pulled closed, the sound of a heavy wooden latch or an iron bolt sliding into place echoing briefly in the twilight. With each closed shutter and bolted door, the world grows smaller and darker. The last traces of daylight cling to the western sky, a faint, bruised purple, and then that too begins to fade into an inky, star-pricked blackness. For us, darkness is an inconvenience, easily banished with a flick of a switch. But for the medieval family, this darkness was absolute. It was a tangible presence, a great, silent ocean that swallowed the world each and every night. It was a time of quiet, of vulnerability, and of rest. And inside the small, simple houses, another kind of light, a much smaller and more precious light, now takes center stage. With the world outside now given over to the deep and profound dark, life shrinks to the size of a single room, a room dominated by one central, vital feature, the hearth. In the poorest of homes, this might be nothing more than a spot on the earthen floor, a shallow pit where a fire is carefully contained. In a slightly better off home, it might be a proper stone-lined hearth against one wall, with a chimney, or maybe just a hole in the thatched roof to let some of the smoke escape. Whatever its form, this fire is the heart of the home. It is the only source of warmth against the creeping chill of the night, the only source of light in the overwhelming darkness. To sit by the fire at the end of the day wasn't just a comfort, it was a necessity. Let your mind settle on this fire. See the flames, not as a great roaring blaze, but as a smaller, controlled fire, carefully managed to conserve precious fuel. The wood crackles and pops, each sound sharp and distinct in the quiet room. Sparks, like tiny, fleeting stars, spiral upwards into the smoky gloom. The light it casts is a living thing. It dances and flickers, throwing long, distorted shadows that writhe and retreat on the rough, uneven walls. The faces of the family gathered around are painted in shifting hues of orange and red, their features softened, their eyes reflecting the tiny, captive flames. The smell of the fire fills the small space. It's a rich, earthy scent of burning wood, oak, perhaps, or ash, mingled with the faint, lingering aroma of the evening's meal, a simple stew cooked in a pot that hung over this very fire. The smoke is a constant companion. It stings the eyes and catches in the throat. It curls lazily towards the ceiling, blackening the wooden beams and the underside of the thatch over many years, creating a dark, protective layer. This smoky scent clings to everything, to the rough wool of their clothes, to their hair, to the very walls of the house itself. It is the smell of home. The family gathers close. The day's work is done. This is a time for quiet. Perhaps a father mends a tool, his hands moving slowly and surely in the flickering light. A mother might be spinning wool, the hum of the spindle a soft, lulling drone. The children might be sitting on the floor, their heads leaning against their parents' knees, their eyes wide and mesmerized by the hypnotic dance of the flames. There is little talk. The day has been long and hard, and energy is a resource to be saved. But the silence is a comfortable one, a shared experience of warmth and safety. Here, within the small circle of firelight, the vast and frightening darkness is held at bay. The hearth is a bastion, a tiny island of light and life in the midst of the cold, silent night. It is the anchor of the family, a steady, beating heart of their small world. And as the flames begin to burn lower, and the embers glow a little brighter, the family's thoughts turn towards the final ritual of the day, preparing for sleep. The time for sleep has come. The fire is banked, its glow reduced to a soft, pulsing red that offers just enough light to see by. Now begins the slow, deliberate ritual of preparing the place where the entire family will spend the night. In the medieval world, a bed wasn't always a piece of furniture, but often just a designated space, an arrangement that was put together each evening and taken apart each morning. For the poorest families, the process is incredibly simple. From a corner of the room, a pile of straw is pulled forward. During the day, this corner was kept clear to make space for living and working. Now, The straw is spread across the floor. Listen to the sound it makes, a dry, rustling whisper, a soft crackling as the hollow stalks are spread across the hard-packed earth. The air fills with the faint, sweet, dusty smell of dried grass. In the dim glow of the embers, you can see dust motes dancing, tiny particles of earth and chaff catching the faint light. The family works together. A child might use a simple wooden rake or just their hands to spread the straw into an even layer, creating a large, single mattress for everyone. They pat it down, trying to smooth out the lumps, though its surface will always be uneven and prickly. This is their bed. It is humble, it is scratchy, and it offers little softness, but it provides a crucial layer of insulation from the cold, damp earth below. It is better than nothing. A family with slightly more might have a wooden bedstead. This is a prized possession. It's a simple, heavy frame, crudely joined, but it lifts the sleepers off the floor. The mattress doesn't rest on planks, but on a lattice of tightly woven ropes. Before laying down the bedding, the father might take a moment to check these ropes, pulling on them, testing their tension. He might use a wooden key to twist the pegs they're wound around, tightening any that have gone slack. It's a chore that makes you think of the old saying, "Sleep tight," a very real physical reminder of the need for a firm, secure place to rest. On top of these ropes lies the mattress itself, a large sack of coarse, heavy linen stuffed with whatever is available, straw, yes, but maybe also dried rushes, wool scraps, or even horsehair. It is lumpy and heavy. The mother and an older child might grasp it by its corners and give it a vigorous shake, trying to redistribute the filling. The sound is a dull, percussive hump, again sending dust into the air. Over this, they lay a single sheet of rough, unbleached linen. It's not soft. It feels coarse against the skin, but it is a barrier against the prickliness of the mattress. Finally, the blankets are laid out. These are heavy, made of thick, felted wool. They are stiff and smell faintly of sheep and wood smoke. They aren't for decoration. They are for survival against the deep, penetrating cold of the night. In the coldest months, one more ritual might happen. A child is sent to the hearth to fetch a large, smooth stone that has been sitting by the embers. Carefully, using a piece of cloth to protect their hands, they carry this warm stone to the bed and slip it deep between the linen sheet and the woolen blankets. It's a small, portable sun, and its gentle heat will slowly spread through the bedding, chasing away the chill. The bed is now ready. It is not an invitation to luxury, but a humble sanctuary, a communal nest prepared against the long, dark hours. The bed, whether a pallet of straw on the floor or oak-strung frame, is now ready. And it's not for one or two people, but for all of them. In the medieval world, our concept of privacy just didn't exist. Sleeping was a communal act, born of necessity, practicality, and a deep-seated need for security and warmth. The family gets ready for bed. There are no pajamas. They might sleep in the simple linen undertunics they wore during the day, or strip down to a basic shift, a long, shapeless garment. Some might sleep with nothing on at all, relying on the shared heat of bodies and blankets. The air in the room is cold now that the fire has died down, and they move quickly, eager for the shelter of the covers. There is an established order to getting into bed, a silent choreography known to everyone. The parents are the anchor. The father and mother take their place in the center. They are the core of the family, and the core of this small human furnace that will keep everyone warm. Then come the children, arranged by a logic of protection. The daughters are settled on the side of the bed closest to the wall, the coldest spot, but also the most protected. The youngest girl is placed closest to her mother. On the other side of the father, the sons are arranged by age, the eldest on the outside. And they might not be alone. Any servants would sleep in the same bed, taking the outermost positions, acting as a further buffer against the cold. A guest staying the night would also be offered a place in the family bed, a sign of hospitality we would find impossibly intimate. There were even rules of etiquette for this. You were expected to lie still and avoid unnecessary contact with strangers sharing your blanket. They pull the heavy woolen blankets up, a single covering for everyone. The weight is immediate and comforting. Underneath, bodies huddle close, not just out of affection, but out of a primal need for warmth. The chill of the room is a real threat, and shared body heat is the best defense. This closeness is the very definition of security. For a child, being pressed between a sibling and a parent, cocooned in this human warmth, is a powerful antidote to the fears that night can bring. There is a final rustling of straw, a shifting of limbs as everyone finds their spot. The mass of bodies begins to generate a small pocket of warmth, an invisible shield against the cold air. They lie together, a single breathing entity, their individual worries softened by the simple, undeniable presence of kin. Here, in the great family bed, they are a small tribe weathering the long darkness together. The day is truly over. The time for stillness has arrived. Now let the world fall silent. Or rather, let the loud noises of the day fall away, and let your ears tune into a different soundscape, a subtler chorus that defines the sleeping house. This is the music of the medieval night, and it begins inside the walls of the home. The first instrument in this quiet orchestra is the house itself. Built of green wood and earth, the structure is always settling, adjusting to the drop in temperature. As the cold of the night deepens, the wooden beams in the ceiling and the posts that form the frame of the house contract. This movement produces a symphony of soft sounds. There are long, low groans, as if the house is sighing. There are sharp, sudden creaks and cracks that echo briefly in the stillness. To an outsider, these sounds might be alarming, but to the family, they're as familiar as their own breathing. They know the particular groan of the main ceiling beam, the sharp crack the doorpost makes when the frost is deep. These are the sounds of their shelter. Beneath these woody sounds is the constant, subtle rustle of the bedding. Every time someone shifts their weight or turns in their sleep, the straw inside the mattress responds with a dry, papery whisper. It's a soft, continuous undercurrent of sound, a reminder of the humble materials that cradle them. And then there is the most human sound of all, breath. In the crowded bed, breathing is a shared, audible experience. Listen closely in your mind. You can hear the different rhythms. The deep, slow breath of a child in profound sleep. The slightly faster, shallower breath of its mother, who, even in sleep, seems half aware. And the father's breath, perhaps a low, guttural rumble that rises and falls with the steadiness of a tide. This chorus of breathing is punctuated by snoring. In a world without our social embarrassment, a snore is simply a sound of sleep. It might be a soft, fluttering whistle or a deep, resonant saw. It's not an annoyance, but a confirmation, a signal in the dark that a father, a brother, a husband is nearby and at rest. From time to time, other sounds join in. A sleepy, mumbled word from a dreaming child. A soft cough, quickly muffled in a blanket. The tiny, almost imperceptible scratch of a finger against an itch, a reminder of the fleas and lice that were a common part of life. All of these sounds, from the groaning house to the breathing family, create a dense and deeply intimate soundscape. It is the sound of life at its most vulnerable and its most peaceful. It is the sound of a family, breathing as one, adrift in the first deep sleep of the night. As the family settles deeper into their slumber, their awareness of the world inside the house fades, replaced by the sounds of the world without. The thin wattle and daub walls and the thatched roof offer shelter, but they aren't a perfect barrier to noise. The outside world is always making itself heard. The most dominant voice in this outdoor chorus is the wind. The wind isn't just a sound, it's a physical presence. It presses against the house, seeking a way in. Listen to the many sounds it makes. There's the low, mournful moan as it flows over the roof. There's the higher-pitched whistle as it forces its way through tiny cracks in the walls and around the ill-fitting shutters. This whistling is a constant reminder of the cold that lies just inches away. A loose piece of thatch might flap and rustle in a gust, a frantic, papery sound. The wooden shutter might rattle in its frame, a sharp, repetitive knocking. The wind is a storyteller, and in a world of superstition, its voice is often heard as the wail of a lost soul or the whisper of a spirit. Closer to the house are the sounds of other living things. If the family's livestock is kept in an adjoining shed, their presence is a constant source of sound. You can hear the soft, wet sound of a cow chewing its cud, a rhythmic, grinding motion. A sheep might bleat softly in its sleep, or stamp a hoof on the earthen floor. The rustle of animals shifting in their own straw bedding is a duller, heavier version of the sound from the family's own mattress. These are comforting sounds. They are the sounds of the family's livelihood, resting safely nearby. Further afield are the sounds of the village. A neighbor's dog might bark, a sharp sound that cuts through the night, answered by another dog across the village. With no cars, no sirens, no hum of electricity, the night is so quiet that these small, isolated sounds travel a great distance. And beyond the village, in the woods and fields, are the sounds of the wild, the sounds that bring a primal chill. The most feared of these is the howl of a wolf. It is not a sound heard every night, but when it comes, it is unmistakable. A long, lonely, mournful cry that seems to hang in the cold air. It speaks of hunger, of danger, of a world that is not tame. The howl of a wolf is a stark reminder of why the doors are bolted. Other, less threatening sounds are there too. The hoot of an owl, a soft, questioning call and response that echoes across the dark fields. The frantic squeak of a mouse in a thatch. All of these sounds, the moaning wind, the shuffling livestock, the howling wolf, weave together to form the second chorus of the night. They remind the slumbering family of their place in the world, small, vulnerable, but for now, sheltered and secure within their four simple walls. For many of us, waking in the middle of the night is a frustration. But for the medieval family, it was an expected and normal part of the nightly rhythm. For thousands of years, before artificial light changed our world, many people experienced what historians now call segmented sleep, or a first and second sleep. So imagine now, after several hours of deep rest, a slow, gentle return to consciousness. It's not a jarring awakening, but a natural floating up from the depths of sleep. The family members begin to stir, one by one, their bodies having reached the end of their first sleep cycle. When they open their eyes, the world is in a state of absolute, impenetrable blackness. The fire has burned down, and all that remains is a bed of embers giving off a faint, barely perceptible red glow. The cold in the room has deepened significantly. It is a damp, penetrating chill that seems to seep into the bones. This waking period, which could last for an hour or more, was known as the watch. It was not a time of anxious tossing and turning, but a quiet, useful interval. What did they do in this strange, dark, waking state? For many, it was a time for quiet contemplation and prayer. Lying in the darkness, they might recite prayers, their whispers a soft sound in the stillness. It was a time to reflect on their dreams from the first sleep, which were often thought to be particularly vivid and meaningful, perhaps even containing omens. It was also a time for quiet conversation. The husband and wife might speak to each other in low tones, their voices intimate in the shared darkness. They might discuss a worry about the harvest or a plan for the next day. In the pitch black, with the children sleeping around them, this was a rare moment of privacy. The watch was a practical time as well. A mother might tend to a restless infant, nursing it quietly in the dark. Someone might need to get up and relieve themselves, stepping carefully over sleeping bodies to a chamber pot in the corner, or quickly opening the door to the cold night air. The father might rise and go to the hearth, using a poker to stir the embers, adding a few small pieces of wood to ensure the fire would be easy to rekindle in the morning. This waking period wasn't seen as a problem. It was a natural rhythm of life, dictated by the sun and the seasons. In the long, dark nights of winter, this quiet, reflective pause in the heart of the darkness was a time of stillness, before the body and mind felt the pull to return once more to sleep. The watch has come to its natural end. The quiet prayers have been said, the low conversations have faded. A deep, own-weary tiredness begins to settle over the family once more. The descent into second sleep is often quicker and easier than the first. The body is already at rest, the mind already quiet. There is a final communal shifting in the great bed. Blankets are pulled up to chins, bodies nestle back into the familiar contours of the mattress. The deep-seated warmth generated by the huddle of bodies has won out against the cold. The second sleep feels different, often described in historical texts as being deeper and more restorative. It is a final surrender to the night. As they drift off, they enter the mysterious realm of dreams, a place of great significance to the medieval mind. Dreams weren't just random firings of a tired brain. They were seen as a window into another world, a place where the soul could travel, or a channel for messages. They feared nightmares, believing them to be the work of demons or spirits that could press down on the chest of a sleeper, causing terror and paralysis. This wasn't just a bad dream, but a spiritual and physical assault that was deeply feared. But they also cherished good dreams, seeing them as potential omens, divine guidance, or a sweet escape from the hardships of their waking lives. In the depths of the second sleep, a farmer might dream of a bountiful harvest. A young woman might dream of her wedding day. A child might dream of a warm summer afternoon. In this deep, final phase of rest, the outside world fades away almost completely. The creaking of the house and the whistling of the wind are no longer heard, but are absorbed into the fabric of their dreams. They are truly adrift now, carried on the slow, silent currents of the night, their minds weaving stories in the deep dark. They will not stir again until the very first faint hint of gray light begins to challenge the blackness of the eastern sky, signaling the coming of the dawn. As the last embers in the hearth fade to gray, the family settles into the deepest hush of the night. The straw shifts one last time beneath them, its texture rough and familiar, as bodies nestle closer for warmth. Outside, the wind sighs a low, long note through the eaves, and perhaps the distant, lonely howl of a wolf echoes across the frozen fields, a final faint reminder of the world that lies just beyond their walls. Within the house, there is only the steady rise and fall of breath, the occasional sleepy creak of wood, and the soft murmur of dreams. All of these sounds weave together in the profound darkness. Here, in the gentle, reassuring press of kin, fears are softened, and the burdens of the day have finally slipped away. In this ancient bed, beneath rough linen and heavy woolen blankets, sleep comes not as a solitary journey, but as a shared voyage, carried on the deep currents of night sounds and the simple, profound warmth of family. Let your own thoughts drift away with them now, through the hush and through the shadows, into the quiet, peaceful heart of a medieval dream. Sleep well. If you have enjoyed this journey and found it restful, please consider a quiet click of the like button. It helps others who are seeking a calm and quiet space to find their way here. May your own dreams be peaceful.